We continue now at the top of Daf Chaf Hayom Beis in Meseches Rosh Hashana. This is Rosh Hashana Daf 25b. The Gemara here continues V'yomer, and the pasuk also says Moshe v'Aaron b'Chohana v'Shmuel b'Korei Shemo. Pasuk puts Moshe and Aaron and Shmuel in the same pasuk. Rashi over here says V'yomer b'Sefer Tehillah Moshe v'Aaron b'Chohana v'Shmuel b'Korei Shemo. Korim el Hashem v'Hu Yanim. It says they call out to Hashem, He answers them. Harei shashakal hakos of Shmuel in Moshe v'Aaron. You see that Shmuel is equated with Moshe and Aaron. Uv'chsuv marishonim kos of Yerubal Bedon v'Yiftach and Moshe v'Aaron Shmuel. And also we saw that it said before, we saw Yerubal, Bedon, Yiftach, they're also included with Moshe and Aaron and Shmuel. That's Shlosha Kalim and Shlosha Chamurim. That's three of the lesser leaders of Klal Yisrael, so to speak, with three of the greatest leaders of Klal Yisrael. And that's the whole point of the Gemara over here. Shakal hakos of Shlosha Kalei Olam ke Shlosha Chamurei Olam. The pasuk is equating the great leaders with the lesser leaders. Lomar lach, to tell you this exact point. Yerubal Bedoro ke Moshe Bedoro. Yerubal in his generation is the equivalent of Moshe in his generation. Bedon Bedoro ke Aaron Bedoro. Bedon in his generation, the equivalent of Aaron in his generation. And Yiftach Bedoro ke Shmuel Bedoro. Yiftach in his generation is the equivalent of Shmuel in his generation. Lalamedcha, and this all comes to teach you Sha'afilu Kal Shebekalin. Even somebody who is one of the lesser leaders, V'nismana Parnis Alatzibor, if the person is appointed a leader over the public, Harehu Ka'avir Sheba'avirim, he should be treated like the strongest of our leaders. The Gemara continues, V'yomer, and the pasuk says, Uvosel al Kohanim haLevim ve'al hashofet asher yeh bayomim hahem. Pasuk says you're going to come to the Kohanim and the Leviim and the judge who's in those times. Would it even be possible for a person to go to a judge who didn't live in his times? The idea is that you have an obligation to go to the shofet in your times. Rashi over here says, your responsibility is to seek out the judge of your particular times. And the Gemara continues, V'yomer, and the pasuk says, Al tomer mahaya shahayam harishanim hayutovim me'ela. Don't say what was earlier, that the earlier days were greater than these. Rashi over here says, Al tomer mahaya shahayamim harishanim hayutovim me'ela ki lo mechachma sha'alt al zeh. That's not a question that's asked out of wisdom. Lefi shahadoros hayutovim v'tzadikim minu achronim, because the generations that were earlier were better and more righteous than the later ones. Lefika chayu hayam harishonim tovim me'ela. That's why those days were better. Shei efsher sheyihu achronim karishonim. But Rashi's saying it's impossible to expect that the later generations would be like the earlier ones, and this all, again, goes to the same basic point, that a person only has the judge that's in their particular time. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, quoting the Mishnah, Not al maklo ma'osa biyado. This is talking about Rabbi Yoshua. He took his walking stick, he took his money on the day that he thought was Yom Kippur, and he went to Rabbi Gamliel, Tana Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Kevin Shara also, when he saw him, Amad Mikiso v'nashkal Rosho, he stood up from his chair, he kissed him on his head, Amar Lo, he said to him, Shalom alecha Rebbe v'talmidei, Shalom to you, my Rebbe and my Talmud, Rebbe shalimadetani Torah b'Rabim, Rebbe, you taught me Torah in public, v'talmidei, and you're my student, Shani gozer alecha gezerah, because I made a decree, v'atam mekayima, and you fulfill it, ketalmud, like a student, Ashrei Hador, fortunate is the generation, Shahagedolim Nishmoim Lekatanim, that the older ones or the greater ones listen to the ones who are not so great. Kal v'chomer, it's a Kal v'chomer, Katanim Legedolim, that the Katanim, when they listen to those who are of greater authority. The Gemara says Kal v'chomer, what do you mean it's a Kal v'chomer? Chiyuvahu, it's an obligation for those of lesser authority to listen to those who are greater. What exactly does the Brisa mean over here? And so the Gemara explains, Ella, what it means is as follows, rather, Mitoch Shahagedolim Nishmoim Lekatanim, if you have a situation where the greater ones listen to those who are lesser, as in this case where Rabbi Yoshua was willing to listen to Rabbi Gamliel, so nosun ketanim kal v'chomer bi'atzman. So then those who are lesser, they make a kal v'chomer with themselves, and they certainly will listen to the gedolim. Hadron alechem einan makir, and this is the end of the second parak of Meseches Rosh Hashana. If you're enjoying this channel and these videos, please like, share, and subscribe, and please take a look at the description box below to see how you can support this channel. We will now begin the third parak of Meseches Rosh Hashana. The Mishnah says, Ra'u Bezdin v'chol Yisrael. Let's say the Bezdin and all of Klal Yisrael, they see the new moon. Nechgru ha'edim, and they ask the Edim the questions. V'lo ispiku lomer mekudesh, but they don't get a chance to say mekudesh ad shechashecha, until it's already dark, until it's already the next day. Harei ze mu'uber, so then you have to make Rosh Chodesh on the 31st day. Ra'u bezdin vilvad. Let's say you have a situation where only bezdin sees the new moon. So yamdu shnayim v'yoyidu b'fneim. So then two of them should get up and they should act as the witnesses and testify in front of the rest of the court. V'yomru mekudesh mekudesh, and then they will say mekudesh mekudesh. Ra'u shlosha v'hein bezdin. Let's say three people see and they're able to form a bezdin. So yamdu hashnayim. So two of them should get up, should act as witnesses. V'yoshivu mechavereim etzel hayochid. Take some friends of theirs and put them by the one that's left to create a bezdin. V'yoyidu b'fneim. They can testify in front of them. V'yomru mekudesh mekudesh, and they'll say mekudesh mekudesh. She'ein hayochid nemun al yedei atzmo. Mishnah says that the individual is not believed alone. And Rashi over here says she'ein hayochid nemun, the individual is not believed, means to say like this: lomar mekudesh b'fnei atzmo. The individual, that one judge, can't say mekudesh on his own. Lakach tzarich lo'oshem mechavarei netzel. That's why they have to put two other people next to him in order to form the bezdin. And the Gemara says lamali lemisna ra'u bezdin v'chol Yisrael. Why do you have to have in the Mishnah the case that bezdin saw the new moon and also the entire nation saw the new moon? Isn't it enough that bezdin saw it? And so the Gemara says, no, it's needed. Because I might have thought, if the bezdin and all of Klal Yisrael saw the new moon, so then it's already a public knowledge that there was a new moon, and you shouldn't make it an extended month. You shouldn't make Rosh Chodesh on the 31st day. You should do it on the 30th day. So Kamash Malon, so it comes to teach us, no, since they didn't get a chance to say Mekudesh, therefore the Rosh Chodesh is going to have to be on the 31st day. And the Gemara continues, V'kevan detanalei ra'u bezdin v'chol Yisrael. Once you already have a case over here where bezdin, all of Klal Yisrael, saw the new moon, so nechgru edim lamali. What do we have to talk about the situation where you're asking the edim the question? So the Gemara says, no, hachikam, here's what the Mishnah, here's how you should read the Mishnah. Inami nechgru edim. Or let's say you have another situation. Let's say you have a situation where you have witnesses, and you ask the witnesses the question, but again, they didn't get a chance to say Mekudesh until it already became dark. So then in that case as well, the situation is going to be a Rosh Chodesh Mu'uber. Rosh Chodesh will be on the 31st day. And the Gemara continues, once you already said that if it's already dark, so it's mu'uber, so lamali lemisni chakira sa'idim klal. What do you have to talk about the chakira sa'idim at all? What do you have to talk about the fact that we're questioning the edim at all? And so the Gemara explains as follows: it's needed. Because I might have thought to have a chakiras edim ketchilas din. The fact maybe that they did the chakiras edim should be like the beginning of the court case. Umekudesh mekudesh kegemar din, and mekudesh when you actually say that it's Rosh Chodesh, that should be like a gemar din. V'lekadshi belelia, and so therefore maybe it's possible actually to be mekadesh the chodesh at night. Midi dehave adinei mamanis, and that's what we find by dinei mamanis. By dinei mamanis as well, we find that you're allowed to do it at night if you're finishing the din. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, dinei mamanis done in Yom. When it comes to dinei mamanis, when it comes to monetary cases, we can start the court case during the day. The gomer belayla, you could finish it at night. So hachanami mekadshin belayla. So here also I might think you can already finish up your case, so to speak, at night and say mekudesh at night. So kamash malon. So it comes to tell us you're not allowed to do that. Gemara says, "Ve'em hachinami." Let's say that's indeed what you are allowed to do. Maybe we should be allowed to finish the case at night. So the Gemara says, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Ki chok li Yisrael hu mishpat le'lokei Yaakov. It says it's a chok li Yisrael. It's like a mishpat. It's a judgment. Eimas have a chok. At what point in time does a judgment become a chok? Begemar din. It's when the din concludes. V'kakari le'rachmona mishpat. And the pasuk is also calling it mishpat. Ma mishpat b'yom. Just like a mishpat is during the day. Av hachanami b'yom. So too over here when it becomes a chok, meaning at the gemar din, that has to be during the day. It cannot be done at night. And we'll take a look at Rashi over here. Nechkru ha'edim lamali. The Gemara asks, what do we need to investigate the edim for? Chakiras and acharei shakol ro. If everyone saw, what are we investigating? And then the Gemara asks, Lamali lemisni lechakira kla. Why do we have to talk about a case of investigating the edim at all? Kevan dashmin and dechiro bezdin v'chol Yisrael afilu hachim ma'avrinle. If we already said that in a case where bezdin and the entire Klal Yisrael saw the new moon, still we delay the Rosh Chodesh if they didn't say Mekudesh on time. Kol shekei nechkru edim. For sure, that's going to be true in a typical case where they're just investigating edim. And so the Gemara said, Sal kadai techamina hechadika chakiras edim biyom. You might have thought in a situation of chakiras or edim, su lo niavrua. Maybe we shouldn't say that it's a leap month. Maybe we shouldn't add a day. Just finish up what you were doing at night. And say that the 30th day actually is Rosh Chodesh in terms of setting the holidays. And so the Gemara said, Mishpat hainu tchilas hadin. Tchilas din, Mishpat is considered the beginning of the judgment. And again, like we said, it's a chok. That's the end of the din. Ki choku b'kiddush hachodesh darshin alei b'perakam. We darsh in this pasuk having to do with kiddush hachodesh. Mishpat b'yom. How do I know that Mishpat is during the day? Nafkalan b'sanhedrin mivahoya b'yom hanchilu as bonav. It says b'yom. B'yom atamapil nachlos. It's only during the day that you have these kinds of judgments. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, quoting the Mishnah, Ra'u bezdin yamdu shnayim v'yoyidu b'fneim. Let's say the bezdin sees the new moon, so two of them should get up, and they should testify in front of them. And the Gemara says, V'yamai, why do they have to do that? Lote shemiya gedola me'reiyah. The hearing, the testimony from the Edom shouldn't be any greater than seeing it. If the bezdin already saw the new moon, what does it help to hear testimony about the new moon? That should be lesser than actually seeing it. Rashi over here says, V'amai yamdu shnayim v'yoyidu. Why should two get up and testify? Halo ru kul, and they all saw it. Yikadshu b'riyasam. They should make it kiddush. They should make the kiddush hachodesh. They should sanctify the new moon just by seeing. Tolote shmiya shashomen mipi Edom gedola me'reiyah. Nobody's going to say that hearing that you saw the moon from Edom is greater than seeing it. To hagabe edus hachodesh loksiv edus. It doesn't say by edus hachodesh that you need testimony. Elokazeh ravikidish. It says you see it and you sanctify the new moon. So again, what's the purpose of having them testify? And so the Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Zeira. Rabbi Zeira says, Kigon shara'u balayla. The case is that they all saw the new moon at night. As Rashi over here says, Sharu balayla hilkach l'machar ilav shmiya al ma yikdashu. Therefore, the next day, because they're going to say mekudesh during the daytime, like we said, it has to be during the day, but during the day they're not seeing anything, so they have to hear something. They're going to have to listen to the testimony during the day. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, quoting the Mishnah, Ra'u shalosha vehin bezdin yamdu shnayim v'yoshivu mechaverei metzal hayochid. Again, let's say three people see and they form a bezdin, so two of them should stand up and testify, and then you should get some other people in order to form a bezdin. And the Gemara says, Amai, the same question, why? Hachanami, name lote shmiya, gedola me'riyah. We should say the same thing like we asked before. We should say that the shmiya should be no better than the riyah. If they saw the new moon, that should already be better than a testimony, and they should say mekudesh. V'chitema hachanami could go in sharu balayla. Maybe you're going to suggest, we'll give the same answer that they saw it at night. Hainu hach, but then you have the exact same chiddush twice. And so the Gemara answers, Seifa tzrichale. No, this end case is needed for an additional chiddush. De'ein hayochid neman al yidei atzmo. It's telling us a chiddush that the individual is not believed on his own to say mekudesh. In other words, like we said, you have to add people to say mekudesh. Because I might have thought, Hoel Vitanya, since we learned in a Braisa, Dine Mamonis Bishlosh, that when it comes to monetary cases, you need three people as a bezdin. But if the person is an expert, then even one person can judge the case. Maybe here also, when it comes to Rosh Chodesh, you can have just one person say Mekudesh. So Kamash Malon, that's the Chiddush over here, that you need three people. And the Gemara says, but why don't we say indeed this is the case? Maybe one person who's an expert is good enough. And so the Gemara says, no, there's nobody that's a greater expert to the public more than Moshe Rabbeinu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Aaron needs to be with you. Even Moshe Rabbeinu cannot do it alone. Like the pasuk says, again it says Moshe and Aaron, so you see even Moshe, the greatest mumcha, could not do it alone. But the Gemara says, does this mean to say that a witness can become a judge? Rashi over here says, somebody who's fit to be a witness, nasadayin, can also act as a judge. Now everybody involved here could be Edim, Sharei Kulam Ra'u, because they all saw the new moon. So are we saying that somebody who's fit to become an aid is allowed to become a dayan? Let us say that our Mishnah does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Akiva in this regard. The Tanya, because we learned in a Braisa, Sanhedrin sharo echad shahorages hanefesh. Let's say a Sanhedrin saw somebody kill somebody else, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chavav Amud Aleph.